Gaming news today is touching on a lot of topics ranging from comments about the PlayStation 5 Pro from the co-CEO of PlayStation that has many people asking just how long this generation is going to last. And then my first impressions of Dragon Age Veilguard. They are not what I expected, and I'm going to walk through the good and the bad in my experience and why I've been pleasantly surprised. Also, the Monster Hunter Wilds beta is crushing it, and many people are drawing comparisons that I want to talk about as well. And as always, I've got some games for your wish list and your radar. And if you like this kind of content, be sure to hit subscribe and the bell button. Consider becoming a member. We do a lot of extra content for members, and if you do click join, pick Member Plus for $6. It'll get you into all the extra content. So first up, is the PS5 Pro supposed to help the gen last for 10 years? Well, in a recent article, the co-CEO of PlayStation revealed that the PS5 Pro was a 5-year project and that it actually started before the PS5 launched. But it was something at the end of the article that really got everybody's attention. He said the following: "We design everything with having one ahead in our mind. It's not like we just make a next step and we don't know about the 2 steps ahead. That's not our way of working, because we need to make sure that the 10-year-old generation cycle continues to be going as well." Now, I included this in my recent upload. If you haven't seen my latest video on the PS5 Pro, it's called the PSSR effect, and I basically argue we've been ignoring the giant in the room and the thing that's really going to change the landscape of console gaming for PlayStation, as well as just upscaling tech in general. Now, this quote, though, I used it in that video to talk about something very different, that they have a long-term plan for the Pro and the PSSR. This quote could indicate that the PS5 gen will last longer than other gens. Now, that is something that I have been predicting. I've been telling people my gut instinct is that the Pro, not the Pro, but the Pro is going to help extend it, but the PS5 generation is actually going to last longer than a lot of people are anticipating. And I think that's probably a good thing. If you look at the longer length of dev cycles, devs probably are excited about the fact that stuff they're working on right now, if it takes them 4 or 5 years, they're not going to be suddenly caught in that weird valley of like, oh, there's a new console coming out, what do we do? I also think even when that does happen, my video about PSSR explains why that won't be as big of a challenge going forward. Okay, now maybe that's not what he means, though. He may come out and qualify it. They may come out and respond and say that that's not the plan. But right now the headlines are running with the fact that this guy basically just said you're looking at a 10-year cycle for the PlayStation 5 generation. So we'll have to wait and see if there's earnings calls or if there's other things that they're going to speak to. But I do think we basically lost the first 2 years, 2020 and 2021, because of the chip shortages and the pandemic. That could be playing a role here of pushing it back, but it does seem like my prediction is going to come true, that this gen is going to last a little bit longer. Now, I want to give you my first impressions of Dragon Age Veilguard, and I'm going to actually show you my gameplay because it actually looks really bad on YouTube. The compression is just so terrible. I went and looked at this this morning, and I was shocked at how blurry and muddy it looks on YouTube, more than it already does. Like, the game certainly has some lower image quality and resolution issues when you run performance mode on PS5 or the Series X. And it's even worse on the Series S. But man, YouTube really squashed this game. It did not look nearly this bad. So I would not base your expectations about this game's graphical fidelity in performance mode off of somebody's YouTube stream or YouTube uploads, okay? So I just want to acknowledge that right on the front end, that this does not look great, but I wanted to speak to that. But also, I want my gameplay behind me while I'm talking about this, okay? Because I was pleasantly surprised. I did not think I was going to like this game, and it wasn't starting out great. So I will say this. I think they made 2 very big mistakes with the opening of Dragon Age The Veilguard. First, I don't think they should have shown the entire opening of the game in a video a while back. It made the entire exercise really boring. I was like, yeah, I've seen and heard all of these lines. I've seen and heard all of these moments before. They should not have done that. That was a very weird decision. And it also is probably when the game is at its worst. The enemies are stupid. You have like no ability abilities. It doesn't really do the greatest job of pacing. They set up the game, I think, with respect to gameplay and pacing in a really bad way. They also completely fail to explain certain combat mechanics that would potentially really win people over, because it really feels good if you play it in a certain way or if you know how to do certain things, and they just don't do the greatest job. What this game should have done, and I replied to David Jaffe about this on Twitter because I agreed with him, I really think they should have considered doing a demo or a tutorial that felt like a demo. Final Fantasy XVI's demo won me over because it let me play the game. It let me play it in the early part of the game, and then it let me play late in the game when all of the abilities are kind of banging on all cylinders, okay? And that convinced me to get Final Fantasy XVI, and I think that would go a long way for Dragon Age The Veilguard. I would not have been hesitant or trepidatious about this game if I would have played a demo prior to its release, where I have like a bunch of abilities unlocked and you walk me through how to play it and you show me the different ways of playing it, which I'm going to talk about that here in just a second. So let me just talk about the good and the bad, okay? The good. The graphics are good for the most part. Performance is good for the most part. You are certainly going to see some performance and graphical issues on the consoles because it does not seem like they prioritize them as much. It's getting high praise for its fidelity and just how good looking it is on PC, but on console, my PS5 on performance mode, it is kind of muddy. It is kind of blurry. I will say that I was happy with the consistency of the frames. It felt very consistently at 60. Now, another good thing about this game, the combat is actually far better than I expected, especially once you learn that you can just hold down left trigger and you can trigger your abilities as well as your teammates' abilities. Now, you can still, bring up the ability radial, like dial circle thing, and I went into the settings and changed that to a toggle. I've never really liked holding down a bumper, having to drag my joystick to a corner and hold the joystick there and then let go of the bumper. That has always felt very non-intuitive to me. So I set it up to where I would hit right bumper, it would pull it up, I would drag to the ability I wanted, and then I would just hit bumper again. You can try that out, see if that helps you. I do think sometimes weapon wheels and radial dials like that can be really, really not quick and snappy, and that can make the combat feel bad. But I also think you might enjoy playing like I did, where I would just hit left trigger, and every single one of their abilities that you see here, you can trigger while holding left trigger. You just hit up on the D-pad or left on the D-pad. It makes it really, really fun, especially for your own abilities. It sort of weaves your abilities right into the combat. I'll be doing a combo. I'll have some guy close to death, and then I'll just like drop kick him. It feels awesome. It feels more like an action game than like a, pause tactical RPG. Now, if you like that, more power to you. You can play that way, but I prefer to play more action style. So take that tip for what it's worth. Somebody in the chat turned me on to that tip, and it really changed my experience. Now, another good thing about this is I will say that the voice acting and the writing is good some of the times, which is something I'm going to speak about in just a second. There are moments where it's like, wow, this is really good. This is really well done and really well voice acted. There's a particular scene with Solus that I thought was actually excellent. You're in like a dream state area. I don't want to spoil anything. I actually thought that was cool. I was like, oh, this is really interesting. I'm actually kind of compelled to continue caring about the story. But we'll talk about how the voice acting and the writing is also not that great. So world design and exploration is one more thing I want to say that is good before I move to the bad, okay? So I am very much in the mood now to not be constantly in an open world. It's almost exhausting to, boot up a game now and be like, yep, there's just this big giant landscape and mountains and a skybox and oh, brother, you almost feel tired the minute you enter a game like that sometimes. Maybe you're not like me, but that's how I felt recently. And this feels more like the Final Fantasy XVI open area design, which I like a lot. And this doesn't run like crap when I'm exploring. So hopefully Final Fantasy XVI can rectify that. Maybe the Pro will rectify that. But these set pieces, I think they're well designed. Exploration feels rewarded, but you don't have to do it. You can check every nook and cranny if you want, but you don't have to. I did it, and I was constantly finding treasure. I was constantly finding money, and it doesn't feel like you're wasting your time. You might stumble across a puzzle or something that you can't quite figure out how to get past. Some areas, apparently, you have to retread with new characters, new abilities, or whatever, so there might be some low-level, retread return mechanics in there, kind of like how you do in like a Metroidvania. I'm not saying this is a Metroidvania, but that always feels similar, right? It's like, oh, I now can break this wall. Oh, I now can open these doors. That element apparently is in this game a little bit. And the puzzles are fairly straightforward. They're not that difficult to solve. I will say, let's segue now into the bad, okay? Some of the writing and the voice acting feels just awful. And I honestly feel like 2 writing teams worked on this game. There were people that worked on the writing team that maybe worked on the previous games or have maybe worked within fantasy RPG games before, and they can bring a sense of gravity and seriousness and dark tones, while also having some joviality and humor here and there. However, certain characters sound terrible. They sound like their voices have been overproduced. I kept saying that they sounded like Disney cartoon voices. So you would go from your character, Rook, I think is wonderfully voice acted, or Solus, where there's like this seriousness to it. There's a tone of sobriety and severity of like what we're doing. And then all of a sudden you're talking to somebody who literally sounds like a Disney princess. And it's not that you can't have, you know, whimsical, high-pitched voices. It's that their production quality and the tone of it just doesn't fit, and it really hurts it. I also think some of the writing is just arguably terrible. The way they express things and say things. We stumbled upon something that was very grotesque and awful looking, and one of the characters says, "This is weird." And it was like, what? Like, that's your reaction to this nasty blighted growth that looks like a giant disgusting alien tumor? That's the word. Now, I've been helping my daughter on her writing projects, so I'm very much against like lazy words, and that just felt like a lazy word, you know, weird. This is weird. And so again, I'm not trying to be persnickety and real picky and nitpicky, but I do think the writing is all over the place, and you're going to see tons of clips and examples of when Dragon Age Veilguard writing is just awful, but then there's also times where it's quite good. Again, I feel like there was almost like 2 writing teams on this game. Now, I will say here, you might get some of that in this section here where I'm fighting these 2 guys, and this is where the combat really turned for me. This section is where somebody said use left trigger, and you see down there at the bottom how those abilities just pop up. It makes it a lot more seamless, and you'll notice near the end of this fight, I start getting into a better flow state with it. I'm getting parries, and then I'm able to then just do those abilities on the fly when I want to, and it really makes it feel fun. Now, you might notice, though, in this section, the targeting in the camera is very clumsy at times, and I think that's largely because they built a game that's wearing 2 hats. You can play this in a more, you know, maybe more classic, slow it down, tactical RPG style, or you can play like me, more action-oriented, more moment to moment. They are to be applauded for building a game that allows you to play both ways. Like, once I discovered left trigger, I was like, oh wow, like this entire game can be played like an action game if you want. However, you definitely sense the rough edges of the camera work and the targeting. Targeting is especially bad because there's like an automatic target that takes place, and then there's your actual target, and target breaks regularly. Switching targets doesn't feel that great. I think targeting in games with multiple targets can often be a little clumsy, but in this one it stood out, you know, kind of particularly bad. So that is something I would like to see them polish, maybe with a patch. I will also say that enemy AI and team AI can be pretty dumb at times. They'll just sort of stand there, both the enemies and both your compatriots. They're just really dumb sometimes. Overall, I played the game for 2 hours, and it went from a 7 to a really solid 8. I was like, yeah, this is a 7. This isn't a game I would come back to. After 2 hours, I was like, okay, whole game changed. Combat feels good. I was getting cool loot. My character looks cool now. Everybody made me pick a dwarf because I'm short in real life. And so that's why, you know, you got a little short king running around here, getting his hits in. But I really liked it. I did. I didn't think I was going to like it. So proceed with caution with some of the good and the bad that I've kind of outlined, but those are my first impressions, just sort of flying over my experience with Dragon Age The Veilguard. Now, another game is descending on us right now, and it is the Monster Hunter Wilds beta, and it hit an insane player peak already. 463,000 players were playing at the exact same time. And yes, maybe they all just wanted to go in and take a look at that very buxom blonde, but this game is extremely popular already. Now, some were comparing this to the Dragon Age Veilguard player numbers. Like, oh, look at this victory. Listen, Dragon Age Veilguard surpassed Black Ops 6 as a top seller on launch day on Steam. That's impressive. That's not easy to do. It's doing really well. PC Games End claimed and reported that Veilguard hit a player peak that was 733% higher than Dragon Age Inquisition's record on Steam. So it's breaking records for BioWare with respect to player numbers, and it's doing quite well for sales. So listen, just celebrate both games. It's awesome that Monster Hunter Wilds beta had 500,000 people playing it on Steam. Like, that's awesome for them and awesome for the devs. Hopefully they can use some of that money to better optimize it and make it look a little prettier on PlayStation and Xbox, because the performance mode of this game looks like a blurry, dirty mess on console. So happy for both games. Like, we can be happy for both games, okay? It's great that they're having that level of success. So that is some of the news stories. Now I've got some games for your wish list and your radar, and this first one is called Luna Abyss. Now, this game is going to be multi-plat when it launches. You may have seen this before. I want to remind you about this game because I kind of forgot about it as well. This trailer came out a year ago, so I'm kind of hoping we maybe hear about this game in the near future. Some of these areas look like direct rips from Destiny, and that's okay, but clearly inspired by Destiny, but also inspired by Returnal. This is an FPS bullet hell sci-fi shooter. Now, it currently has a demo on Steam. I've had some people tell me that the demo is a little rough. I may check that out today in members, because I've had this game on my radar for a while, and I always meant to go into the demo, but somebody kind of turned me off to it when it first came out, because they said it was a little bit rough. We'll see if it's any better, see if they're any closer to getting this game to launch. But definitely put Luna Abyss on your wish lists and on your radar. It can only be wish listed on Steam right now, but again, it is going to be a multi-plat game. So that was Luna Abyss. Now, another one to put on your wish list or your radar, you can currently play this on Steam right now. This is called Biomorph, and it is coming to PS5 and the Xbox Series consoles as well as Switch at a later date. It currently has a 92% on Steam. It also has a demo if you want to try before you buy. Now, this is a Metroidvania where you become the creatures that you kill. It's a really cool art style. I actually love it. It honestly looks like the combat is really solid as well. This is another one I may check out with the members. Since it does have a demo and such a high score, I may end up playing this for the members today. That's a great reason to consider picking up a membership. Click that join button and make sure you pick Member Plus so you don't miss out on those extra segments. The $5 tier is pretty much reserved for gifteds, which we give tons of gifted members here, so stick around. You might get one. Now, the last game for your wish list and your radar, it doesn't have a release date. Looks like it's going to be Steam only, but I have to put this one on your radar because it does look really good. It is very much a Hollow Knight-inspired action-adventure Metroidvania 2D platformer. And we've seen a lot of these recently that have been very much art style inspired by Hollow Knight. Now, we tried one recently called Void Rot, and it was not any good. They broke a lot of the cardinal rules of a Metroidvania. It just did not feel very good from the beginning, and the combat was just not enjoyable. And this one is definitely one that I will check out if there is ever a demo. Now, you'll notice already what I'm seeing that this is doing better than Void Rot is there are iframes. He has a roll and a dodge and an iframe and a lot of agility and a lot of movement to keep yourself healthy and alive. So definitely take this one, and Crowsworn is the name of it. I might have forgotten to say the name of it, but this is called Crowsworn. So wishlist Crowsworn on Steam today. Would really hope to see this one get a release date sometime soon because it does look excellent. And again, another great one that Hollow Knight has inspired while we wait for Hollow Knight Silksong. Am I right? All right, so PS5 Pro could be taking the generation 10 years from launch date, according to the co-CEO of PlayStation. Dragon Age The Veilguard, I gave you my first impressions, the good and the bad, and then the Monster Hunter Wilds beta is crushing it with almost 500,000 people playing it. So that's the news, and now it's time for the discussion. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. We've already got people gifting members and getting things started, so let me get that pulled up for you guys. You can also now help gift members. You can make me add to the member count. Typically, when I gift members, it only just goes. I'll gift 5 members. It just goes to the members, and that's it. But what we have been doing is saying, hey, I know a lot of you guys prefer super chatting, they've added a brand new feature to YouTube. We got early access to it. It's a super chat goal feature. So if we get 10 super chats, I'll gift 5 members, and I'll actually add them to the total over here. I will join the audience, basically, and help add. And Han shot first, and so did you. Joker Quinn says, hey, let's get that 500 goal. No stretch goal. Let's just hit the 500, and then we'll do a Fright Night tonight. I will play A Quiet Place. We have these really fun jump scares with super chats. It's a blast. Make sure you guys are here for that if we unlock that. You watched SkillUp's review of Veilguard, and he is spot on. Listen, there are certainly rough edges in Veilguard. I will not shy away from saying that. I talked a good bit about the bad things in the game. I really do feel like there was 2 writing teams. I feel like there were 2 writing teams in the room for Dragon Age Veilguard. It's like it goes from being like, hey, that was a pretty good scene, and that was some pretty good dialogue, to being horrible and cringy and flat. It's like, what is going on? And Mike on the mic does a single gifted. Alfonso does a single gifted. You guys are trying to set up that 20 bomb dunker. We'll see if anybody takes the bait. It'll be an Agent of Chaos 20 bomb. And Berto is saying, like the video, Incarcerated Lich has renewed their member plus. And that takes us to 407. Thank you so much, Incarcerated, for sticking with me for that long. And then a 5 bomb comes in from our boy, Mash. He's always here, oh so faithful, taking care of the members in the community. Hadigan, I missed your gifted? I don't see it. Hang on a minute. I don't see it on the back end, Hadigan. What happened? Oh, you did it before we went live. That's my mistake, Hadigan. Another gifted from Hadigan. I am sorry. Bump us to 413. Han shot first, and so did you, Hadigan. You were the first. Hang on. You guys are spamming the chat. Oh, my word. A $5 super chat from Cat Uncle moves the super chat goal ahead. Says, having played the Monster Hunter beta on PS5, it's been a whale of a time. Can't wait for it to come out next year. And a single gifted from Raphael takes us to 414, but then we're going to jump all the way to 434 with a 20 bomb from Mash, taking us up and continuing to keep that member count crazy. I appreciate you so much, Mash. I'm surprised you didn't mention how the game holds your hand like you've never played a game before. Oh, I segued into the voice acting in the bad, and I meant to say that, Snoop, when I was talking about the puzzles being fairly simple. I meant to segue into the voice acting and talk about that, and talk about how they talk to you like you're an idiot, right? Oh, I didn't unmute Discord. Sorry. I had it unmuted for morning coffee, but I forgot to unmute it now. You can turn most of that off in the options. Baby's first action RPG. Yeah, it definitely feels that way at times. It almost feels condescending. It's like we walked into a room. There's an icon. I mean, literally the mission icon is on the giant ballast. And she's like, maybe we should use that to shoot the wall. And I'm like, shut up. I'm exploring the area. Game companies need to realize that if someone needs a hint, it's never right away. It's never right away. It's like, I just got into the room. I'm checking the corners. I'm checking, especially in Dragon Age Veilguard, where there's stuff in the corners and behind the boxes to find, like little bags of gold. Are you trying to motivate me to not do that? Are you trying to motivate me to not walk around and explore? Don't you want me to do those things? Like, if somebody needs a hint in a game, especially where the icon is literally on the ballast, like it's saying, hey, come use this, right? It's like, dude, I don't need you to tell me to do that. Like, leave me alone. Hey, over here. Hey, over here. It's like, hey, be quiet, you know? All right. There's the 5 members that I owe you guys. 5 members every 25. Appreciate you so much. I hate when games do that. They talk to you like you're a complete moron. Like, there's always a way you can add a hint or option after a certain time has passed. Right, like if a certain amount of time has passed and the person's just kind of not getting it, go for it. And another 5 bomb from Mash. Mash is apparently matching my my member gifting. So I do a 5 and he's like, I'm doing a 5. Thank you so much, Mash. Somebody else take the reins here. Don't let Mash have all of the glory. I was taking a sip of my soda. I'm not stupid. Right, Zubair? It's like, maybe I set the controller down and, took a bite of my sandwich. Maybe I had a drink of water. Laura does that in the reboot of the Tomb Raider games. When you turn on Eagle Vision, she just tells you what to do. Right, Kicking It with Timmy B renews his VIP and sets us up nicely at 440, 10 away from 450, and a single comes in from DK Bager and sets us up to be 441. Thank you so much, DK Bager. I used to ask why devs had so many hints in the games, but then changed when I started watching other people play. A lot of people don't understand basic things in gaming. Okay, so right. Here's my thought on that before 1-0. And Charles Freeman comes in with a 20 bomb and says, I'm not going to let MASH have all of the glory. Thank you so much, Charles Freeman. Here's the thing. I'm going to go back to my original statement on this. When someone needs a hint, it's never right away. And a $5 super chat from ADJC, moving the super chat goal along. Still wondering if they continue to take care of the PS5 when the PS6 comes out. Well, ADJC, there's always a period of overlap. There's always a period of generational overlap. Like, I don't think you're ever going to see, like, a PlayStation 6 come out, and they're just like, yeah, the PlayStation 5's dead. We don't care about it anymore. Like, that's not a thing. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, that's not a thing. There's never been a time... Words aren't wording... I'm not sure what you meant. Did you mean to say something else, ADJC? Still, wonder-ringing. And a single gifted comes in from Joker Quinn. Thank you so much, Joker Quinn. I don't think there's ever going to be a time where that happens. Like, in the PS5 era, there was that interview, the infamous We Believe in Generations interview. Well, nobody read the rest of the interview. Like, in the interview... He makes it clear we are not going to abandon the PS5. There's going to be a period of overlap and support. Everybody ignored that and ran with a false interpretation of what he was saying because I was completely new to, like, the false frame grift back then. I was like, why are people doing this, right? I was, like, unfamiliar with the way that people handled information back then. I was like, why are people doing this, right? It's like, wow, okay. Just gonna straight up lie. That's how we make content now. Okay, cool. And so the idea that he said that and people are like, yep, that's it. There'll be no more cross-generational games. It's like, are you... I just want to ask. Like, I'm just asking, are you stupid? Like, I just want to ask people that. Like, are you stupid? Do you think they're gonna do that? Not you, ADJC. Back when this was going on, I thought that. It's like, do you honestly think they're just going to do that? They're like, yeah, we've sold 7 million PS5, so the, 110 million PS4 owners, screw you guys. You don't get anything anymore. Now, there is a point, there is that tipping point where they're like, yeah, we're not making games for the PS4 anymore. That has happened. You think you'll play more Dragon Age? I'll be honest with you, Crowded House. I wanted to last night. My sister-in-law's in town, and they had put the kids to bed, and I knew I had maybe 20 minutes to play something. So I played Karate Survivor because I'm having so much fun with it. It's such a good game. But I also knew if I could only play Dragon Age for like 20 minutes, it would have been irritating. Like, I want to be able to at least put 1 hour into a play session, which that game's perfect for that. It's like a Final Fantasy 16. It's like, oh, I can take a chunk out of this game in an hour and then be happy and come back the next day. I think I'm going to keep playing it off stream. Yo, a $5 super chat tip from Mike on the mic. I was in the middle ground between too much hand-holding and no hints at all. I guess that's too much to ask for. Oh, you just want a middle ground. Right. Exactly, Mike. Played on stream, members. I've been watching people play it. Been watching people play what, Monty Mole? Guys, by the way, that's 3 out of 10 super chats for the goal. And when I do that, I become one of you. I will add to this count. I will help because I know a lot of you guys like super chatting instead of gifting. So we've come up with a way to honor that. You can still help add to the community count and the member count by doing that. So glad you like Karate Survivor. I'll definitely keep an eye out for more games like that if you like. Oh, Veilguard? Yeah, I might play this afternoon with you guys. If I'm honest with you, I might. I might just play it with y'all this afternoon because the 500 goal incentive, which you guys are almost assuredly going to hit. You guys are crushing it, and we've been live for 29 minutes. By the way, hit like if you haven't hit like yet. Let's try to get to 200 likes. That does help the video find more people. So, yeah, tonight's the Fright Night. I'll play more of A Quiet Place with, like, jump scares. You guys can super chat jump scare. And MASH! With a 20 bomb, this man says we will never miss a goal if I'm around. Unbelievable. I now owe you guys a 10 bomb. Jiminy Christmas. So yeah, I feel like I would go back to it. I do. I feel like I would go back to it and play it off stream. I feel like I'm going to complete it. But back to what I was saying with ADJC and the PlayStation 6. There will certainly be a cross-generational time period for PS5. Now, somebody might be worried about that, and I think this is probably a valid concern. If everybody really, really starts focusing on PSSR and what that means for the PS5 Pro and how that's going to really, really help walk things over to the PS6. Green Monster with a 5 bomb, thank you so much. And that takes us to 487. Listen, there might be some valid fear there that, like, hey, the closer we get to the PS6, maybe they do. Maybe there's these weird hybrid games that are only available on the PS6 and the PS5 Pro. I don't know if they would do that for a handful of reasons. It's a little unprecedented, it's a little confusing, and I don't think the optics on that would land very well. It's nice listening to you on my wedding day. Javier, you're getting married today? Javier Cotto's getting married. Congratulations, Javier. Guys, can we get some hype in the chat? I want emotes. I want spam. I want whatever. Don't say anything offensive. Celebrate this man. It's his wedding day, and he decided to stop by and listen to my dumb face. Like, I appreciate you, bro. The PS5 will probably run PS6 games at 30 FPS. I mean, there's certainly something to be said for that. There's certainly something to be said for, like, hey, you know, there could be some games that just push too much, and your PS5 will be able to play it at just diminished performance. Now, listen to me. If that happens all of the way when the PS6 shows up, I'm like, okay, that's probably fine. That's probably fine. You have to move forward. Guys, thank you for all the hype in chat for Javier Cotto. This man used to be an insane, like, member bomb dropping crazy person. Obviously, getting married is a bigger priority, so I hope he's been saving all the money from the gifteds that he used to do and putting it towards the honeymoon and the future, dude. I hope you guys have a great one, man. I really, really do. Congrats. I hope the day goes great. I hope anything that goes bad is a fun memory and not like a sour thing, man. I hope it's great. Yeah, he used to drop 50 bombs like candy. Yeah. Totally understandable. He's like, listen, I got to back off on these gifteds. I'm getting married, man. That's completely fine, man. We appreciate you just being here. One of the funnest names to say. The problem is the PS4 players are still coping and saying there's no significant difference between the PS4 and the 5. When GTA 6 drops, they're going to finally say, oh, yeah, maybe. And a $5 super chat tip from ADJC, continuing to move that super chat goal along, and says, I think that I worry about is I'll end up missing out on great games that only come out on the PS6. I mean, that's happening right now for PS4 owners, ADJC. They couldn't get Spider-Man 2. They couldn't get Burning Shores DLC, right? They can't get Astrobot. I mean, they couldn't get Returnal. They couldn't get Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. They couldn't get the Demon's Souls remake. They couldn't get director's cuts of Tsushima and Death Stranding. That's going to happen. There's no reason to worry about it, except that it's going to happen, and come to grips with either you're going to have to get a PS6 at some point. Like, let's just say, for the hypothetical, that when 2031 rolls around, 2030, 2030, 2031, there's a great game that launches that you can't get, you can only get it on the PS6. Yeah. Yup. Just get ready to buy one then. You know what I mean? Isn't that the point of a new generation? Right. Like, there's always going to be that point. So rather than worry about it and wring your hands, just say, there will be a point in time that my PS5 is no longer getting new games. That was true of every console you've purchased up to now. My Xbox 360 eventually didn't get games. My Xbox One X eventually didn't get games. My Xbox Series X isn't getting games now. Pony, you listen to this, Pony. My Nintendo Switch will eventually not get new games. I mean, that's what happens. That's what the world does. That's what the technological world does. Guys, if you're enjoying today's stream, I'm glad you're here. Do me a quick favor. Let's get that like count to 200. We need 25 of you to hit that thumbs up. Let's do it. It makes a huge difference. I'm responding to some of your comments on this video. My PSSR effect video. The PSSR is going to urinate over all of the competition. This guy here says, Tommy Boy says, not only is PSSR future-proofing for the PS6, but putting out PSSR now, devs can get used to working with it, and Sony can update it, making it more efficient. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out compared to DLSS, since it's console only. I agree completely. Right? I agree completely. It's going to be very, very interesting how this works out. PSSR doing jump attacks. Yes. Please, Sony, can I have another? LOL. Of course, PSSR is better than FSR. FSR is software. While it does a good job, it will always be limited compared to hardware upscaling tech like DLSS and PSSR, which is why PSSR is so important. Like, that's why it's so important. They're building, you know, future cartilage between the generations, and I think that's going to play a huge role. Things don't exist in perpetuity, says Wheezy. Legend Status says, still holding out for a new release for my Sega Mega Drive. Yeah, man, I can't get games from my Coleco anymore. I mean, we're kind of taking the piss, ADJC, but, like, you know we love you. Like, eventually, you got to switch. 2030 will be all cloud gaming? No, I don't think so. No. PlayStation's made it very clear they're doing another generation of hardware, and cloud gaming will never be the standard, ever. It won't. I don't think it's technologically possible. I mean, you would have to see... Yeah, I mean, you would have to see singularity type... A singularity type event, an event horizon type thing where technology advances and internet advances to such a degree that cloud gaming becomes the standard. There ain't no way it's happening in 6 years, FCAT. Ain't no way. The American internet infrastructure is a joke, and it ain't getting there in 6 years. It isn't happening. It just isn't. You also have to consider the rest of the world. There are pockets of the world right now that still buy large numbers of physical game sales because the internet's just not good enough and they just prefer not to download digital. There are pockets of the world where that is true. It's like, yeah, like we buy physical because the internet's just not that great here. You're always going to have sections of the world where, like, the internet infrastructure is just not good enough. FCat's laughing. Well, maybe he was goofing around. I bet he might have been goofing around. The cloud gaming guys, I'm going to tell you something, FCat. Those cloud gaming guys, they're believers, right? I don't know what cup of Kool-Aid they drank. I don't know who indoctrinated them, but they are believers. They are out there preaching the cloud gaming gospel. And I'm like, I'm fine. I don't have a problem buying hardware, you know? So let me get this straight. I cannot buy hardware and play through the internet and get really great graphics, but it might mess up sometimes. Or I can just buy hardware and never have to deal with that. Like, hardware is not a hurdle for me. I'm not like, oh, I don't know. I've been buying consoles and having consoles in my home since the Coleco, but not having to have a plastic box is a pretty nice selling point. It's like, cloud gaming's not... I'm just going to say it. I don't think it's that compelling of an offer. It just isn't. It isn't. It's not that compelling. It's not a game. It's not innovation that makes the game better. It's you can avoid hardware. So? Literally. So what? Sell me on more than that. That's not, well, you can get insane graphics and you can play on a PC that's way stronger than a PC that you could ever buy. I don't care. I don't care. I'm not shopping for a $4,000 PC, so you're not meeting the pain point. It's huge for mobile gaming. This is true. It's huge for mobile gaming. But again, boom, just bounces off. I'm like, yeah, I don't care about that. Brian M with 21 months of memberships. PS4 cross-gen at 30 games because that's what it does. PS5 plays most games not at 30. I'd be confident in the Pro and the 5 doing fine. Thank you, Brian M. By the way, Brian M., if you are paying for your own membership, you want to bump up to Member Plus. It's only $1 more, but what it does is it puts you in a bucket of paid-for members so that I can then give you more content. I can't do that when you're at a standard membership. Now, if you're at a standard membership because it's gifted, more power to you. Thanks for being here. I'm glad you got it gifted. I just want people who are paying for their own memberships to be aware you're missing out. And you could also help us hit a goal. We're trying to get to 600 people at Member Plus and above. Yo, Catwalk with a single gifted. Thank you, Catwalk. Gets us to 488. Thank you so much. So, yeah, you're always going to be moving forward in a generation, and I don't think cloud is going to capture as many people. I really don't. I don't think it's a very compelling offer. You know, hey, that thing that you've been buying all these years and you really like having, do you want to not buy that? You know, if someone was like, hey, you know how you've been buying, touch phones and cell phones for years? Well, we have a projector necklace that's going to project it out in front of you, and it's a hologram. Don't you want to buy that instead and avoid having to touch anything? A lot of people would be like, no, I'm good. It's familiar. Give me the phone, you know? Now, you could have a generational shift where cloud gaming becomes more common. And so, like, my children have no idea what it was like to watch traditional television. They don't even know what that is. I've had to explain that to them. I'm like, no, you don't understand, kiddos. I'm like, we would have to rush home from Sunday evening service at church if we wanted to catch America's Funniest Home Videos. It was on at a time. And if we weren't there, we didn't see it. Unless you had a fancy VCR where you could program it to when to turn on and record what channel, and then it would record the wrong channel because somebody forgot to put in the right channel, and then you'd get an hour of the news. So, like, my kids have no idea what that was like. There could come a time in the future where the entire generation behind says, what do you mean you have to buy hardware? We just play video games through the TV. We just play it through the screen in the living room, whatever it's called. You know, projector, whatever. Who goes to church on Sunday night? This was old school. Yeah, this is old school back when they would do a Sunday evening service. It was rough as a kid. It was like you were at church all day. You know what I mean? You're like, come on. You know, I just want to play outside. So certainly there could be a future where the expectation is that buying hardware to play video games is weird. Like the way that my kids view television. They're like, we want to watch Bluey. Click, click, boom. And they're in. They're watching Bluey. Dad, like all of a sudden, you know the song. You do. You don't even have kids and you watch Bluey. So that's just their world. And yeah, there could be that in the future. I think it's going to be a long, long rudder turn. It will. Broken Earth jumps in at a Member Plus, and I count that as a double. Any Member Plus upgrades, any brand new Member Plus members, that counts as a double. If you upgrade your membership, it's a double. If you pick a Member Plus, it's a double. Thank you so much, Broken Earth. And Risic gifts a member as well and takes us to $491. We want people to upgrade to Member Plus So much so that I will gift members if enough of you do it in a day. So consider upgrading. Use that upgrade command. And Risic gifts another one. Thank you so much. $4.92. And a member plus renewal from Punisher Matt. 15 months takes us to $4.93. Thank you for renewing your membership. I've been here long enough. It was time. I greatly appreciate that, Broken Earth. I love it when people just decide to jump in and get involved. I love it. And a single gifted from MASH. And a 10 bomb from Risic takes us to 504. I don't have a stretch goal, so we don't need to do one. You can just save them for next week. If you guys go crazy, I can't stop you and won't stop you, but I can't think of a stretch goal. Man, I wish I could have watched Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and G.I. Joe whenever I wanted as a kid with the click of a button, but nope, had to be sitting in front of the TV exactly the right time. That's right. Animaniacs, Tiny Toon Adventures, like all the, the Tick, Spoon. Like, you had to be there Saturday morning if you wanted to watch those cartoons. What's Bluey? Serious question. Children's cartoon with dogs voiced by Australians that is incredibly charming and funny, and the episodes are like 8 minutes long, and it's just been this massive hit over the last couple of years. I believe it's on Disney Plus. Thank you, really grateful. Well, thank you. Yeah, Pinky in the Brain, that's right. So we're doing that right now. Like, we're remembering an era that was completely different with TV. Now, video games, and in a very large respect, they haven't changed that much. Yes, internet and downloading a digital game certainly is a new development, but you're still putting the game on a box in your living room. I'm not going to Tip Top Video. We would walk to a place. It's no longer there. We would walk to a place as kids called Tip Top Video. We'd grab the little tag and say, hey, I want, Clay Fighter 63 and a third. They were making fun of the fact that like every game came out had 64 in its name. Mario 64 and this 64 or whatever. Anyways. And you give me like a physical cartridge to take home and put it in the box. It's the same. It's just delivered differently. And I know somebody would say, well, that's what cloud gaming is. Cloud gaming is the same thing. It's just delivered differently. Again, I fundamentally think it's such a large bridge to get people to walk across. It's such a large bridge to get people to walk across. Because if they have bad internet, if the internet in your neighborhood sucks, you are not going to convert to cloud. You just aren't. You're not going to do it. And there's no way to tell that person, oh, but it's great. Cloud is great. You should like this. This is good. You just have to wait for your internet to not be terrible. They don't care about that. All they know is, I had a bad experience. That's all they know. I had a bad experience. It was laggy. It was glitchy. It was buggy. It looked poor. I'm not doing that again. Like, the minute somebody has that level of experience, especially if they're a skeptic, like, if you're skeptical about something and you're like, yeah, I don't know if I want to do this, and then you have a negative experience, it's going to really reinforce that negativity. It is. It's going to make you feel like, yeah, I am not doing this. I thought this was going to be bad. I thought this was going to be no good. I'm going to open up the office door. Give me 1 second. So if you're in the skeptical mindset of like, yeah, I don't know if I want to do cloud, and you have that bad experience, I just think it's going to reinforce it. And then I think the real difficulty is it's harder to get somebody like that to come back and try again. You have that one bad experience and you're going to say, yeah, dude, I'm good. I tried that. I was on the fence. I tried it and it was bad, and I knew it was going to be bad. So back all the way to the original super chat from ADJC, things are going to move forward. There's going to be a PS6, and eventually there will be games that just hit the PlayStation 6. Like, that's just going to happen. It's the way of things, you know. It's the way of things. How long has this person been? Listen, I tell you what. There's no real reason to even listen to people like you. We just come in and immediately bring up politics. Like, just go away. I was born in 2004, says Spice King. I'm in that awkward spot where I 100% remember cable television and the struggle of waking up early enough to catch a show, but at the same time, streaming services were on the rise. For sure. Like, to me, the rise of streaming services, I think a lot of people do that. They basically look at the rise of streaming services with TV and they say, yeah, that's what cloud's going to do. That's what cloud's going to do. And I'm like, I just think there's a big giant difference. Because if your internet's acting up, or you get a little bit of buffering, or, you know, you get like a little blip or something when you're watching Netflix, it's not that big of a deal. It just isn't. It's not that big of a deal. When you're playing a video game and the lag makes you die, the lag makes you fall in a hole or make a mistake or fail a boss, that's entirely different. Please explain to your followers that Bluey and Blue's Clues are not the same. Yeah, guys, Bluey and Blue's Clues are not the same thing. To be fair, Lono, streaming was also non-viable 20 to 25 years ago. We'll see how things change with technology. I think cloud would become mainstream if internet wasn't the bottleneck. Imagine Diablo 4 hardcore and you lose your character to a lost connection. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. People forget how long it took to have decent image quality on streaming services. We still don't get anywhere near close to Blu-ray quality, especially in sound. Right. And I think that's the problem. People always forget that. They always forget that these types of things take a really, really long time, and our biggest bottleneck is the dadgum infrastructure in America. It's so bad. I wouldn't play any game right now on cloud and I have high-speed internet. It's just too unreliable. It's like some days the internet's great, some days it's not. It's up and down. It's like I get good enough speeds where typically when I download a game, it's totally fine. I don't have any major issues. We don't have major outages at all. If I stream on my cable internet, the upstream is just unstable enough that I constantly drop frames. And it's like a gig down. And it's like, yeah. I think it's a gig down, 40 up. I think it's a gig down, 40 mega up. And my issue isn't that it's slow. The issue is it fluctuates. And if you're playing a game and it fluctuates, that's it. It just feels very precarious as an offer to people. Speed of internet is less important than latency. They don't even advertise latency. Right. I played Resident Evil Code Veronica via streaming last week. It was fine, but it was 720 and I could still feel the input latency. Right. The latency is another aspect of it, Eugene. The latency on like a button press, or if you're playing something that needs like quick reflexes. Yeah. Gig down, 40 up. Is not fiber. That's equal up and low. Oh, it's not fiber. No. Yeah, I don't have fiber there. So I live in Louisville, Kentucky. And 4 years ago, I had a technician to my house from AT&T. And he said that there was a 5-year build order for fiber in our city. And when we get to the summer of next year, it will have been 5 years. When we get to the summer of 2025, it will have been 5 years. I don't think over the course of like the next 6 months, the entire city is getting fiber. I've not seen it anywhere. You're one up, one down. Yeah. Fiber is even. Fiber, if you get a gig up, you get a gig down. Like that's. I believe it has something to do with the way that they send the signal, the frequency. You don't have like a different band, and I'm fairly certain through cable and through like DSL, the reason your upload's always slower is it's like it's a different band or something. I don't know. I had a guy explain it to me once. So yeah, fiber's always one up, one down, two up, two down, whatever. I'm on cable, Spectrum, and AT&T DSL, and the DSL is what I stream on because it's stable. It's old copper lines, but I get like 12 up, and I only need like 7 to stream. So you're in Louisville and you have AT&T fiber. So you probably got AT&T fiber, I would assume, 14 years ago. It was probably around the 2010 era that you got it. It was around that time. Somewhere between 2010 and 2012, I believe they stopped building AT&T fiber in Louisville because they were bleeding cash on it. They couldn't make money on it. I have Verizon Fios. I live 10 miles from the Azure servers in Virginia. The performance of xCloud still sucks for most games. Yeah, and that could be anything. You could just have bad routing. You're just getting routed to the server poorly. You could have... There could be a node in between, you know, it's got a bird's nest in. I mean, you just never know. There's so many things that could basically give you a bad experience. It also could just be their capacity problems that they've had, you know. They've had issues with capacity for a while. All right. xCloud's kind of a boring topic. I'll be honest with you guys. We've said, and I've said what I wanted to say. I want to bring it back to what this guy said about the PS5 and 10 years. Do you think that's what he was indicating? Do you think he was indicating that the PS5 and the PS5 Pro are supposed to last for 10 years? When he said that, did he like Freudian slip what their view is for this gen? Or was he saying, when did the first PS4 come out? They stopped supporting the PS4 last year. That was 10 years after it came out. Is that what he means? When he says 10-year console generation, is he referring to how long they support it? Because last year was when we got Burning Shores, and we got Spider-Man 2, which was exactly 10 years after the PS4 came out, was it not? Or was he saying something different? I think he meant dev cycle from concepts to completion. Because, I mean, it could mean a lot of different things. It could mean a lot of different things. It could be like, oh, no, we expect this gen to last 10 years. I think everyone is misunderstanding what he means. A console launching doesn't mean the previous cycle ends. So you could basically then say PS5 will be supported and get games until 2030. And then after that, you would be buying PS6 only games. Yo, what's good, hardcore magnanimous gentlemen? How are you? The obvious interpretation is the right one. We will provide support for this product for a total of 10 years. That is regardless of any other products that may be sold. I still wonder if his phrasing indicates that we will get more time before the PS6. So, like, the PS4 comes out in 2013, and then 7 years later, you get the PS5. I've got this feeling it'll be 8 years this year, and it might get bumped to 9. That's my gut instinct, is that last time we waited 7 years. This time I think it's obvious we're waiting 8 years this time, minimum, because they said we're entering the latter half of the gen, which means 4 more years from 2024 is 2028. That's 8 years instead of 7. So that already is more time. And I remember telling people, I was like, I think this gen's going to last longer. I think because of what happened in 2020 and 2021, they may bump it, and we may have to wait until 2029. Especially if there's no pressure from another console maker for them to hit that cadence in that timeline. Why would they delay getting an extra 700 from people for new hardware? I mean, for a variety of reasons. I mean, it could be, you know, how long they want their first-party studios to be able to work on games that don't have to consider cross-gen support. You know, if you look at your calendar, let's just do a hypothetical, Zubair. If you look at your calendar and there's going to be a bunch of devs that start working on games right now, and all those games are going to be dropping in 2028, and it's not going to be really conceivable to make them, you know, suddenly make that a cross-gen supported game for the PS6. It's better for them to focus on, no, these games will be PS5 and PS5 Pro. Like, let's just say you have a monsoon coming. You can scope it out and you can look at the calendar and you know, we're going to have a monsoon of games in 2028. And then that might be a bad time to ship your console. Like, it might be a bad time to do it. Go out with a bang. Just game after game after game after game. You know, launch 5 big titles in a year or something. Because right now, I don't think we're going to get more than 3 big first-party games a year. I don't think PlayStation's ever going to put out more than 3 in a year. That's just my gut on it. I don't think they need to, and I don't think they want to. And so then they might push it and be like, you know, push the PS6 to the next year, because then you can daisy it, and you can say daisy chain it almost and say, well, now we're going to have a bunch of titles ready for the PS6. Because if the PS6 is coming in 2029, you would have a bunch of companies start working on those games next year. Track with me here. There's a lot of people thinking that 2025 and 2026 is when the cadence will uptick. It'll suddenly uptick from the first-party PlayStation studios. Well, guess what happens? If you have a bunch of first-party studios shipping games in 2025 and 2026, 4 and 5 years later, they can have a game ready to go for the PS6. It also depends on when the PS6 dev kits are ready. That's also a question. They're usually ready, like, what, 18 months to 2 years before the thing comes out. So that would be like mid-gen cycle on a lot of the games. Lupita dressed as Storm for Halloween. Holy mackerel. Could we just ship that movie? The idea that you got to spend 4K on a PC and then upgrade it the next year is a huge false narrative. I'm on a 10th gen 4-year-old CPU, run every game made still and well. Yeah, I don't know if anybody's saying that you need to do that. If somebody in chat's saying that, I don't think. You can hate PC, but stop with the dumb comments like that. If you spend $3,000 on a PC today, or you're good for the next 5 or 10 years. Who is saying something that you're classifying as dumb? I'm not seeing it. Getting an extra 700, they barely make anything on launch sales. Yeah, usually the margins are terrible on the launch of a console. I mean, are you shadowboxing? Are you shadowboxing DJB? I don't see anybody in chat saying that. Who are you talking to? How long will it take to make a PS6? Is the question. LOL, 8 years on Concord. So you think Firewalk and how long it took them to build a shooter as a smaller studio of about 100 people is somehow related to how long it will take the engineers and the R&D departments at Sony to build a new console? You think those things are in the same ballpark? I think we're getting the next PlayStation in 2028, maybe 2029. I think 2030 isn't a good idea, personally. Someone said something about better than buying a 3000 PC and having to upgrade every year. So somebody said that. Somebody said buying... Oh, Broken Earth said, versus paying $3,000 and having to upgrade more often to stay on top. So misquoting them and misrepresenting what they said is a form of shadowboxing. You're straw manning. He said that basically he prefers buying a console. If you do mid-gen purchases of a console, okay, let's just do the math. If you bought the PlayStation for $500 and then 4 years later you buy the Pro for $700, you have spent very little in the grand scheme of things, okay? So I'm just going to put this at the top of my browser so I have it. So we have the 700 and the 500, okay? You've got somebody spending $1,200. Now, when I bought my PC over here and we tried to future-proof it, we spent around $3,000. I think it was like $2,700 or something. After taxes, it came close to $3,000. It's a 2080 Ti rig that we built in like 2019, 5 years ago, right? I still am not anywhere close with what I spent on PlayStation. I bought that thing 5 years ago. The PC I bought 5 years ago. I bought my PlayStation 4 years ago. All right? And I got a Pro coming. So in order to have a PS5 and a PS5 Pro, I have spent $1,200. I'm still not even close. I'm not even in the same ballpark as what I spent on that rig. And right now, as what he said, as Broken Earth said, if I want to stay on top, I'm dropping a pretty good chunk of change right now. If I really wanted to upgrade this rig, okay, I'm probably going to drop a pretty good chunk of change. What? Maybe another grand, easy. What? A grand to $1,500 if I really wanted to take this rig up from 2080 Ti and be like, yeah, I want to stay on top. Let's just say I spend another grand. And then I'm now at 4. You bought 2 PS5 Pros. Yeah, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the consumer considering what Broken Earth is considering. My personal preference is to have one for my office and one for out there, and it's a business expense. That's immaterial to what we're comparing. You really want to compare how many PCs I have to how many PlayStations I have? I have a streaming rig, a gaming rig, and then out there I have another streaming rig and another gaming rig. You want to add up what all that hardware costs? Like, that's not what we're comparing. So if we're comparing my gaming rig to what I've spent within PlayStation, it's not even comparable. It's not even comparable. You're going to spend more. What he said is not ridiculous. A 4090 today, and I'm almost positive will outlast the PS6. Okay. So if I took my rig up to that, what would that cost me? What he said is not absurd. All he said was, if you spend $3,000, you're going to spend more to stay on top. I don't think that that's incorrect. It's like, I spent roughly $3,000 on that rig 5 years ago, and if I want to stay on top right now, I'm probably going to dump another grand or more into that thing. I bought a PlayStation 5 4 years ago. I'm buying a Pro for $700. I've only spent $1,200 at that point to stay on top in the console world. Like, yeah, it's more expensive to stay on top in the PC world. What he said is completely true. It's true. Like, I don't think what he said was stupid or deserving of anger and frustration in the way that you spoke to him. A 4090 is a $1,600 card. You'll need a new power supply, motherboard, and CPU. Yeah, more than likely, there'd be a ripple effect in my rig right now. If I wanted to buy a top-level card, I might even need a new PSU. I might need a new one. I don't know. And once you do that, it's like the dominoes just start going down. You're going to spend more money. You won't ever need to upgrade to a top console is all I'm saying. I'm not saying what he said is absurd in the scheme of it all. No. Nobody ever needs to upgrade. Unless there's a game you simply can't play. Like back when you needed I believe when Call of Duty 4 came out and Gears of War came to PC, I think they both required, it might have just been Call of Duty. There was a game back then that required a quad-core processor. Ooh, quad-core. And I didn't feel like doing it, and that's why I bought a console. We can use me as an example. My top of the line PC is about to not be top of the line. It's going to need another $3,000 to upgrade. Repeat that in 2 to 2.5 years. Right. So what he said is not crazy. It's like he's saying, I prefer to buy a console and then 4 years later buy a mid-gen refresh because I'm spending less money. Well, you have to pay for PS Plus. Add that in. It's not even going to come close. It's not going to come close. I've got a $3,000 rig sitting right here that I paid for 5 years ago. And right now, if I wanted top of the line and I wanted a rig that could do all the pretty awesome, cool things that people are doing now, it would cost me another big chunk of change. It wouldn't be cheap. I ain't bringing this rig up to snuff for $700. I can tell you that right now. I'm not doing it for $700. The price comparisons in this discussion, they always blow me away because it's like, if you actually talk to the people who invest in really getting a really good rig, or they future proof is a bit of an oxymoron in that realm. Like there's not really such a thing as future proofing, but like you talk to somebody who's doing that, none of them are talking about like, yeah, well, you can do it for $700. They're talking about spending, good chunks of change. Yo, my man Insomniac Black with a $10 super chat tip. He got us halfway to the super chat goal, and he says that Sunday Southern Baptist preacher would be like, I'm about getting ready to close, like 18 times. I'd be like, bruh, I done had enough Holy Ghost for one day. Deacon grandkid problems. I know that you're from that era, or I know that you go to the good church if you're saying Holy Ghost, right? We need a lot of Holy Ghost up in here. Oh, man, Brandon Lake, I need a Holy Ghost. We say Holy Spirit now. That's good. That's good. We got 8 minutes left on the super chat goal. I wish I could just bump the timer. It's not about the timer. It's about the every 10 I'll gift. What did I just come back to? Oh, Lone Wolves. Turn in your Bibles to 2 Peter. I'm just kidding. All these dudes start sweating. They're like, I'm having flashbacks of Sunday service. You need to go back to church, by the way. Your mama's praying for you. She wishes that you'd come back. So, and I know saying that there's a bunch of you that applies to. Get your butt in church on Sunday. Preacher gonna tell you, we've missed you. Oh man. You're in for a good time when the old version of the Lord's Prayer comes out. That's right. I don't upgrade my PC that often either, but when I do upgrade, I tend to overbuild them purposefully. My mom is dead, so she ain't saying that. She could be saying it right now, Talika. Come on. In any case, I have been in and around these environments for a long time. And a $5 super chat from Green Monster. To upgrade your current rig, you would probably need to spend about $2,000 if you want to be at the top. Right, which is exactly what he said. 6 minutes left on the super chat goal. Let's see if we can do it. We can do it. We got to beat the timer, says Ala Park. Let's go, chat. Let's get that confetti. A $5 super chat from Ala Park. Let's do it. And mine goes to the total. And there's another one. Hardcore magnanimous gentleman with a $10 super chat tip says, I'm guessing the PS6 will also launch without a disk drive. Will cost around $800 and spend another $100 on a disk drive and a stand. By then I'll be 40 years old and hopefully married with kids. No more time. Oh, you think that's going to save you money? A wife and children, you're going to save money? No. You're going to be spending way more money on way more things. He's like, yeah, dude, I'll be 40 and married. I won't have to buy all this stuff. Woo! You might not be able to. Yo, and a $5 super chat tip from Tyler Johnson. Who's going to be number 10 to get the confetti? That just means you'll end up buying 2. That's right. I have 2 right now. He needs some milk, right, William? Sorry, kids. Dad's filing for bankruptcy. I'm more broke now than I was 10 years ago, and I have a way better job and a much higher salary. I can't imagine. So I started streaming 10 years ago. Yeah, I can't imagine what I would have done with all that money. A decade single? Oh, gosh. I'd probably be dead. I'm serious. I think my diet... And I probably would have drank too much and ate too much. I'd be dead. I'm not kidding you. 10 years, a decade? And Cat secures the confetti with $20 super chat tip. You're the best, Cat. I owe you guys 5 members, and mine gets added to the total. We don't have a stretch goal, but I'm going to add mine anyway. We don't need to do a stretch goal this week. It's just me tonight. I couldn't think of one. Like turn the lights off or something. Maybe I'll get the confetti. A $5 super chat tip from Talika. Thank you so much. I can set a new goal. I wonder if I can set it to 9 since Talika already... Oh, I can't set it to 9. Oh. I'll set another one. I'll gift 25 members. Oh, not 25. Holy frick, Lono. What are you doing? I'll give 5 members. I'll set this one for 2 hours. We don't need a timer on there. The timer is not... The point is not the timer. The point is that I know people prefer super chatting over gifting, and they can super chat, support me, get their message, and then after enough of them, I'll gift members so that they can still be contributing to the community growth. I ain't got no kids, so I can buy myself a 5090. Yes, 25 members. I'd have had a lot of fun in 10 years. I'd have built my own gaming company with blackjack and hookers. In fact, forget the gaming company. Right, there you go. Yeah, I wouldn't be in a good place. I don't think so. A family civilizes you. It really does. You know? You see a lot of these guys and how they act, you know? These just degenerates, these terminally online people. And it's like, man, you need community. You need something to civilize you. Hardcore, magnanimous gentleman with a $2 super chat tip. All my life, retirement saving will be on the PS6. Farmies with a $2 super chat tip says, I'm poor. Apparently, Google owes Russia 20 decillion over YouTube or something. I don't even know how to say that. I can buy a massive rig, but I also just I'm so busy. Console's fine. Yeah, you can. This is what I think gets lost in the discussion sometimes about the price and about, you know, what's better and what's not and blah, blah, blah. Here's what's always getting lost in that discussion, okay? It doesn't matter where you spend your money. It doesn't matter what your preferences are. It doesn't. Just be factual. Like, I was re-listening to a debate about The Last of Us 1 remake, and I was debating people about, they were claiming it was just a remaster and it didn't look any better, right? And I actually did not like the tone of the video because I was a lot more brash and a lot more dismissive and I was rude, and people would probably argue that I still am, and that's fine. They can have that opinion of me, but I've really tried to tone it down more and just say, I just don't care what your preferences are. You're free to have them. I hope your preferences lead to you enjoying the hobby more. But just be factual. Like, just don't say things that aren't true. It just isn't productive to constantly be dealing with, you know, statements that aren't accurate. That's why when he said what he said about, like, well, if I spent $3,000 on a rig, I would more often be spending like good chunks of money to stay on top. And that's an accurate statement. Like, bristling at that statement is just unnecessary. He didn't say anything that was inaccurate. It was like, no, yeah, that's definitely true. I'm living in that situation right now. I am living in that situation right now. If I was attempting to do just that, which that's actually one of our long-term goals on the channel, is to do a PC building stream, you know, and we're gonna go big. We're gonna go big. We just need a lot more people on the Member Plus and above. I upgrade my CPU every half a decade, anyways, says Wheezy. To stay on top was the key part of that statement. Yeah, I felt like he really protected his claim by saying to stay on top. He wasn't saying that like, oh yeah, you need to every single year or something like that. Super Detective says, hey Lono, just tuning in, so I don't know if you've touched on this, but with recent news, you'd have to agree that Game Pass is still a valuable service to both consumer and Microsoft, right? If not, how so? I don't think I ever argued that it wasn't a good value to the consumer. I've always argued that it was an incredible value to the consumer. I argued that it was probably the best value in gaming. You get an insane amount of value from Game Pass. I don't think I ever argued the opposite. I consistently argued that it was antithetical to what game companies want. Game companies want to sell games, and that's why I always found it to be a tough situation for Xbox to be in, because they would have to write insanely large checks to companies. Like if you saw the estimates from that one email in the FTC trial, like the amount of money they would have to spend to get like third-party games to come to Game Pass, it was absurd. And I just didn't find it to be tenable. It's like, how in the world can you sustain this? If Xbox was a company on its own and didn't have a parent company with those deep pockets, Game Pass wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have worked. And the records that Black Ops 6 is setting doesn't refute anything that I'm saying. It doesn't. Oh, it didn't cannibalize sales. You're looking at a 60% jump in sales of Call of Duty with Black Ops 6 on Steam and PlayStation. So, yeah, Game Pass didn't cannibalize those sales. It doesn't have the power to cannibalize those sales. And then, you know that they were trying to protect themselves against revenue loss when they said Day and Date is switching to Ultimate, and they raise the price of Ultimate. And then they had the greatest number of people sign up in a single day for Game Pass when Call of Duty comes out, which I said that was going to happen. I predicted that. You're not like getting me in a gotcha. I told people that was going to happen. I said Starfield currently has the record for the single most new signups of Game Pass in a day. I said Black Ops 6 is going to break that record. It is. And that's why they moved Day and Date to Ultimate, and that's why they raised the price of Ultimate, because they know that's a loss of revenue for them. It's a loss of revenue for them. And the 60% increase in sales on Steam and PlayStation goes with what Eugene is saying. It shows that players are not going to switch platforms for COD on Game Pass. They're not going to. Yeah, they eliminated the dollar trials. They eliminated the 14-day trials. They eliminated all of that because they knew what was coming. If anything, if you read what Satya Nadella said about Black Ops 6 breaking records, it's not reinforcing their Game Pass strategy. It's reinforcing putting games everywhere. If you listen to what he says, he doesn't highlight like, oh yeah, this really enforces Game Pass as a good business strategy. He's like, yeah, this reinforces putting games everywhere. I mean, that right there is your answer. It's like, that's how he's reading the tea leaves of the data. He's not reading the data and saying, oh yeah, this really, really shows why we put games Day and Date on Game Pass. You think with all the new subscribers that it allows them to continue making those investments on their own as Xbox, or do they think they are sinking money from the parent company wallet still? I'm here to tell you that a lot of those people are going to sign up and they're going to drop Game Pass. I mean it. I think they're going to drop Game Pass. They're going to sign up for 1 month, and that's not good for Xbox. I'm not trying to do gotcha, by the way. Just curious about your opinion. No, that's fine. It felt a little bit like a gotcha because it was like, because you basically you phrased your question in a way where like you were making it sound like I said things that I didn't say. You said that you'd have to agree that Game Pass is still a valuable service to both consumer and Microsoft. That sounded to me like you were arguing against something I had said in the past, which I never said. I never said that Game Pass was not a value to the consumer. I always argued that it was the best value. It's the best value in gaming. It's unbelievable. Now, $20 for Ultimate, that starts to become a question because it's like, if you don't like all of the indie smaller titles on Game Pass, $20 a month is a little steep given the cadence of big titles. Like you had Hellblade and now you had Black Ops 6 and then you're going to get Stalker 2 and then you're going to get Indiana Jones. But that's a really spread out cadence. I mean, Hellblade was a long time ago. Imagine being on Ultimate at $20 this entire year. Look how long you had to wait for the cadence to start up. And then we don't know what the cadence is going to be next year. Hopefully it's one a quarter like they're hoping to do. If they can start dropping one big game a quarter, Avowed, Doom the Dark Ages, Fable, I forget the fourth one next year. Then that I think is still a good value to people who are like, no, I don't want to buy those games because that's them spending what? Let's see, 20 times 12. That's $240. Now, if they bought all four of those games at full price, it'd be $280. They're still saving money. If you're $20 all next year and you get four big games on Game Pass that you didn't have to buy at $70 times 4 is $280. Game Pass has you at $240. Still a great value. So if they can hit that cadence, it maintains that value of like you're spending less money, you're getting really big games, and then you're getting everything in between. That's a ton of games. Now, I don't have a whole lot of confidence in Xbox's roadmaps. They haven't hit one yet. The roadmaps are just to keep you on Game Pass. They're never accurate. I don't even think we could classify them as well-intended and honest. I think they are outright lies. I think they walk out with roadmaps knowing it's a lie. When they said, here are all the games coming in the next 12 months, they knew it was a lie. The internal email showed they were scrambling that year. Phil called it a disaster situation. It's like, we don't have any freaking games. Here's all the games coming in the next 12 months. Half of them didn't make it. They did it again the next year and again this year. Their roadmaps are a joke. They are a joke. They haven't hit a roadmap yet. It's always, we're eating good on Game Pass. Look at all these games. We're eating good. It's like that moment in the movie Hook where the kids are eating nothing and you can't see it. It's like, what are you eating? They never hit their roadmaps. So yes, this is a big giant if Xbox can start cranking out one big game at quality a quarter, Ultimate is still worth it because you're still saving money. But if they keep doing this roadmap shenanigans, we pushed Avowed to next year for your backlog to be shut the frick up. That's not why you pushed Avowed back, and it's 30 FPS anyway, so who cares? But the point is like, if they can actually do it, one big game a quarter at quality. By the way, Avowed's not at quality because it's launching at 30 FPS. Don't at me. Call your mama. Don't at me. That's not at quality. So Avowed doesn't even count. It's not shipping at quality. It's shipping at 30 FPS. There's no reason for it to ship at 30 FPS on console. I think $20 is fair for a gaming service with hundreds of games. Same goes for PlayStation. Not sure yet how much I would consider to be too much. Yeah, it's subjective to the consumer, though. It's subjective to the consumer. Because think about it like this, Super Detective. If you buy one or two big games a year and that's it, and that's all you really play, it's not good value to you. You're spending way more money. You buy one or two big games a year, you're spending $140, maybe $210 if you buy a third game. And that's less. That's less than Game Pass. So it's still subjective to the consumer because every consumer is different. There are going to be a lot of people that look at Game Pass and say, this is still the best game in town. This is still the best deal in town. And they are right. They are correct. another person might come to a different conclusion. A lot of people have canceled their Game Pass. Who was it that recently, he's on the Xbox podcast, was it Mag? I think it was Middle-Aged Gamer Guy. I think he said he canceled Game Pass because he doesn't get value from it anymore. And it's really hard to argue with, like, yeah, no, it feels really devalued. It's been 4 years of broken promises and unhit roadmaps. Why would you keep paying for that? Like, why? You're not, they keep telling you here's everything coming to Game Pass, and then it never shows up. Or it shows up really late. Or it shows up in bad shape. Like, listen to me now. This is where you've really got to pay attention. Remember when they said, here are all the games coming in the next 12 months? A lot of those games still haven't come out. They still haven't come out. What showcase was that? Xbox showcase games in the next 12 months. There are still games from that list that have not come out. That was supposed to happen last year. Stalker 2 still hasn't come out. It's about to come out. Can't really fault them, everything they've been through, but you shouldn't put them on the dadgum calendar. Replaced still hasn't come out. Arc 2 still hasn't come out. There might be more here. I don't know. I think Ravenlock came out. Did Ravenlock come out? I think Aura History Untold didn't that come out this year instead of 2023? Yeah, this image right here, this image right here is just become a bad joke. It's just a bad joke. You've got games on here that still haven't even come out. And you're out here telling people, these are coming in the next 12 months. That was supposed to be your 2023. That was supposed to be your 2023. And you got to take games off the list. You got to take Starfield. This was supposed to happen in the first 6 months of 2023. This right here. This was supposed to happen. Starfield didn't make it in the first 6 months. Forza Motorsport didn't make it in the first 6 months. Stalker 2 is this year. Replaced still hasn't come out. And neither has Arc 2. This is a joke, bro. This is a joke. A company this size should not be failing to that degree of putting things on a roadmap and then they just don't show up. That was supposed to be last year. Those games they're still not even out yet. Like, so when you ask me about, well, does Game Pass have value? I mean, yeah, but like, you've really got to ask, like, what are we talking about? They keep telling you, here's everything that's coming. They keep talking about one big game a quarter at quality, and then the games you get in the quarter at quality are games like Redfall and Forza Motorsport. Games that are in abysmal shape. Or then they just delay Avowed for the frick of it, and it's launching at 30 FPS. Like, that's the point. It's like, I don't know how to answer the question other than saying, yeah, it's a great value if, and then I got to do all these qualifiers. If this, if that, if the last 4 years are not an indication of the next 4 years, then yeah, maybe. Maybe. Imagine Netflix doing a roadmap and then the shows just don't come out. Yeah, sign up for Netflix. Can't wait for the new season of Stranger Things next month. Can't wait for the new season of Squid Game. And then it just doesn't show up. You'd be like, wait a minute. What the frick's going on here? I paid for this. Where's the stuff? A $5 super chat tip from Siriu. I've been subscribed to Game Pass for 6 years, waiting on Game of the Year Everwild to drop. Jiminy Christmas. And then a $5 super chat tip from Delta Boss. The catch about it is even if you pay the $240 in Game Pass versus paying for all 4 games, you have to continue to pay to play. That's a shin to the shrine. Thank you, Delta Boss. And then Talents with a $2 super chat tip. I buy COD and one big Sony release per year. Depends if you measure by quantity of games or quality of games. Super Detective says, I wonder if they ever actually plan to release those games when they said that, or they just do it to excite people to the point that they subscribe to Game Pass. You are literally being true to your name. You're being a detective. That is quite literally why I always laugh internally and smirk at the adulation and the confetti throwing after every Xbox showcase. Everybody acts like they're suddenly winning, and then nothing shows up on time. Nothing. Year after year after year, they've done this. And I always have to sit and listen to the absolute slobber fest of, oh God, that was the best showcase. They won the year. They won the It's like, what the frick are you even talking about? Are the games out? Are they good? Have they been reviewed yet? No? Then be quiet. Like, you're celebrating a roadmap. You're celebrating an image. And the image has become a mirage. I do. I believe it. The image has become a mirage. It's like, I don't even know what you're selling me at this point. You're just telling me these games are coming and then they don't. So what's the point of the showcase? I've continued to say that I think Xbox needs to abandon roadmaps. They need to stop putting out release dates, and they just need to show trailers. They have so many games and so much property and so many developers. They don't need to do this anymore. It's not necessary. Autogon Ocelot with 26 months says, buying 32 watermelons for $20 is a great deal. Who eats 32 watermelons? Or play 250 older games. Thank you for 26 months, Autogon Ocelot. Hang on, Eugene said, it makes you wonder if people getting actual value or if they've been mentally deceived to think they're getting value. I think regardless of delays for games, people still can be excited for a showcase. You are correct. From Software, Stan. Yo, what's good, Feed? I see you in the chat. You're correct. I have nothing wrong with being excited about a showcase. When I watched the Xbox showcase this year, I was really excited. I loved the Doom, the Dark Ages trailer. I geeked out, right? I squealed and got excited like a little school child. Like, you know, I was like, oh my gosh. Like a little kid. Why? Well, because it's Doom. And that's quite literally where I cut my teeth. It's in shooters and PC gaming was Wolfenstein 3D, Doom, Quake. Like, you show me Doom, and I'm sitting up in my seat. I'm like, what? Doom? I loved the showcase, but I can't stand the nonsense after where it's like PlayStation has no games, Xbox has got this amazing roadmap. Do you want to really compare this year? Like, that's the point. It's like they did it again. They've done it every year. They trot out these roadmaps and they do these showcases and then nothing shows up on time. 33 Immortals and Towerborn, why were these games included in Xbox showcases? Why were these games included in Game Pass marketing? Why? It doesn't make any sense. They are not hitting Xbox this year. They're going into early access next year. So, I mean, I guess you could say that's a benefit of Game Pass because, like, of the game preview program, I guess. But that's not what Play It Day 1 on Game Pass means. And one of them's going to be free to play when it actually launches. So you don't even need Game Pass to play it. Why would those games be included in the marketing? Because it's all a mirage. It's all a lie. It's always been a lie. They're selling you this idea of like, you're going to get all this stuff. Look at all this stuff. And then you either don't get it on time or it's not at quality. That's the issue. If you hold them to account for that, if people would have started saying this is ridiculous or canceling Game Pass, or if your astroturfing podcasters would have actually pointed some of this out instead of softening the blow of the bad news, maybe, just maybe, you would have gotten better treatment from Xbox as a consumer. Like when you hold a studio accountable and you get them to remove bad microtransactions. Like when you hold a studio accountable and you get them to walk back bad decisions in the game like nerfs or whatever patches or updates that they've done that you don't like. You get better treatment as a consumer when you stop acting like a cult member and you start acting like a consumer. The consumer should be saying, where's the quality? Where's the games? Where's the release dates? Why is this not happening? The consumer should be demanding a refund button on the storefront of PlayStation and Xbox. The consumer should be demanding you actually hit your roadmap dates. Not, oh, it'll be here, wait until. Imagine if you subscribed to a monthly magazine and it only delivered a third of the issues. Right. You wouldn't do this in any other environment. You wouldn't accept this treatment from any other company. You wouldn't let Netflix do that or Disney do that. Imagine Disney getting you to subscribe to Disney Plus and then like Andor just doesn't show up on time. It's like 6 months late. You just keep waiting and waiting and waiting. You sign up for Netflix and Squid Game and Stranger Things. They just don't show up. Or when they show up, half the episodes are missing. Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, you wouldn't accept that. You wouldn't like tune in to a Netflix showcase where they're like, here's all the great movies and shows coming. And you'd be like, yay. You'd be like, are you kidding me? You guys did this last year and nothing showed up on time. The lack of accountability and the fact that they'll focus more on attacking somebody like me is all you need to know that you're dealing with a bunch of suckers. You can clip me and attack me all you want. That's not a game on your console that you can play. It's not going to double the frame rate of Avowed. I mean, you can farm me for ad revenue because that's probably a great way to, to make some money. But like, that's not going to change anything. That's not going to change the state of the console. It's not going to change the state of these roadmaps. A $5 super chat tip from Siriu. Xbox Mirage is the perfect name for their next console. That's kind of how I feel about Season 2. There's only going to be like 6 episodes. Last of Us Season 2 is only going to be like 6 episodes. Oh, it's not going to be 8 episodes? Now, I'm not anti-game delay. Like, don't misinterpret what I'm saying. Like, I think game delays are totally fine and necessary. You just have to ask the question. The question to ask is, why does Xbox keep doing this? Why do they keep grabbing, smaller titles like Replaced? They included Hollow Knight that one year in their showcase and said everything shown in this showcase is coming in the next 12 months. What? Why would you do that? Why are you including things like Hollow Knight and Replaced and Towerborn and 33 Immortals? Dan Clancy has spoken about the issues with Twitch. He says the views shared by streamers on Twitch are not the views of Twitch. Has he said anything more? That doesn't seem like an answer that will satiate your advertisers. I like Dan Clancy. I would love to have a conversation with him, but I don't think that's going to satiate your advertisers, Dan. Like, I don't think anybody had that in doubt. Nobody was like, well, we assume that the views of the streamers are the views of Twitch. Like, there's too many people on the platform to think that. Was anybody thinking that? Was anybody like, well, with the way some of those guys are treated, you might conclude that. They used Hollow Knight Silksong on the roadmap to make it seem like they'd have one of the most anticipated games of 6 months. That clearly indicated to me they were just tossing darts at the board. Well, Silksong is not on the roadmap. Silksong was in the showcase, and they said everything showed in this showcase is coming in the next 12 months. That was the mistake they made. It was like, you shouldn't have done that. Like, Silksong was in there, dude. Silksong was in there, dude. What are you doing? The article where the quote came from? Deserto. He responds to concerns over this and this on the platform. I ain't saying those words. He says, I want to make it clear that Twitch stands firmly against hate and harassment of any form. You can read about more of our commitment here to safety and belonging on Twitch here. I can't read this. I'm gonna, no. You got that's gonna activate Demon Lono, and I'm gonna start saying stuff that I don't want to say. Yeah, Path of Exile 2 got delayed until December. Their reasoning's really good, though. So it's a logistical problem with microtransactions. They want you, anything purchased in Path of Exile 1, they want it to come with you, and they're having an issue with that. It's not a game quality issue. The game is on target. It was an issue. It was an infrastructural issue, and so they're doing this so that nobody loses their stuff. And so it's a very much like they're doing the right thing. It's a bummer for sure, but they are in fact doing the right thing. ADJC says, can we get some likes, fam? Yeah, guys, smash that like button. Let's get to 300 likes. And you guys can keep super chatting, and I'll keep gifting. We've hit the goal, so gifting members is no longer something you can save them for next week. A problem with Microsoft is that they overpromise and underdeliver. The internet's problem with PlayStation is that they don't promise enough. Delayed until when? December the 9th? There's people who have spent like 10K on PoE. I would hate for them to lose everything. Oh, December the 5th. Is it the 5th? I thought, yeah, I couldn't remember what it was. I got the TH right. It's not the 9th. It's the 5th. Yeah, but there's people who have spent, a lot of money. And so you want to make sure those people keep their stuff. Apparently, Black Ops 6 is doing really great on Xbox Game Pass. Are they doing the same with Indiana Jones game and releasing on Game Pass? Oh, of course they are. Yes. Yes. Here's the issue that I think Xbox and Microsoft are going to have to figure out with Game Pass. Okay. Starfield sets the record for the most new Game Pass subscribers in a day. DK Bager's going to gift a member, and he's like, I'm not listening to you. I mean, you guys can keep gifting, and I'll keep gifting 5 every 25. That's totally fine. If you guys want to keep gifting, I'm not going to stop you, but like, we've hit the goal. So everything now is just extra and you just being awesome and kind, and I appreciate it very, very much. So the Game Pass dilemma that they have to figure out is, are we benefiting from all of these people who sign up day one to play something like Black Ops 6? So they'll have to, on the background, they're going to have to figure out what the churn rate is on those people. And they're going to have to then contrast that with the non-churn and then how long those people last. So let's just say that 1 million people signed up. They got 1 million new people. Let's just pick a really easy number to play around with here. So if 1 million people signed up for Game Pass and they have to get Ultimate in order to play Call of Duty day one, but if they're on PC, they only have to do PC Game Pass to get Black Ops 6 day one, and that's like $11. Greetings from Nottingham, UK. Top of the evening to you where you are. Yeah, top of the evening to you. So they got to crunch all those numbers. How many people signed up for PC Game Pass at $11? How many people signed up for 20? Okay. Now you got to add up how many people churned and just canceled a month later because they just did it to play the campaign or some multiplayer or some zombies, and now they're canceling. Let's say they cancel. Okay. You have to pit that against the $70 that you could have gotten from them. So if they were on like the $11 PC Game Pass subscription, they, that's a chunk of change. How many hundreds of thousands of people? Oh, it's afternoon. Sorry, it's afternoon. Good afternoon. You're just in time for afternoon tea. So, you got to pit that again. So if they pay for the $11 PC Game Pass instead of buying Call of Duty for $70, that's a $59 loss. Okay, you times that by a couple 100,000 people, and you're going to have some shareholders that are like, hey, we got to reconsider this going forward maybe. Then you got to do the same thing with the people who signed up for Ultimate on console, $20. Did they cancel after a month? Okay. Now you got to look at all the other people. You got to look at all the other people and say, have they kept it, and then for how long? Did they keep it for 2 months? Did they keep it for 3 months, 4 months, whatever? And then you have to pit that against the potential that you would have earned from them. And then you have to feel out and measure how many people you kept long-term on Game Pass, okay? So what this would look like is like a line graph chart where you'd have people go, drop off, go, drop off, go, drop off. And so the line would slowly start to come down, and you'd have like this core group of people that are just on Game Pass and they're not canceling and they love it, okay? Because eventually in the 4th month, you've now made more money from them if they're on Ultimate. You've made more money from them. You've made $80 off that person. So now what you've got to do, this gets really complicated. Now you've got to say, okay, how many people made it to the 4th month? We made an extra $10 off of all those people. Add that up. Is it greater than the amount that we lost of the people who canceled like after a month or two? Do you see? I think people really lack nuance and understanding about how this is not as simple as everybody wants to make it. Like when somebody put out an analysis saying that PlayStation could end up making more money off of Black Ops 6 than Microsoft. And what they were saying was, now that Microsoft has incurred the operating cost, the distribution, the marketing, everything they have to spend to bring Black Ops 6 to the market, you have to subtract from the amount of money they make from it. And PlayStation doesn't have to do any of that, and there's like a 60% sales up year over year. Black Ops is selling like crazy. So PlayStation's making a ton of money, and they've spent $0. Microsoft spent a ridiculous amount of money to acquire ABK, and now they're spending a high amount of money to keep those 11 to 15 Call of Duty studios churning out COD. All of that has to be weighed against what they make when they sell it. So like when, you know, Destin Legary tweeted and he was like, oh, but I thought PlayStation was going to make more money on Call of Duty. And he had like an article that said all the records that it was breaking. And it's like, yes, but these words might not be in your vocabulary, but return on investment and profit margin has to be considered. It's like, well, yes, they will make more revenue. Automatically they'll make more revenue because they get 70% of every copy sold on Steam and PlayStation. Right? They get 70%. So it's impossible for PlayStation to make more money if you're just talking in the realm of revenue. So, yep, we're all on the same page here. Xbox will make the most revenue off of Call of Duty compared to everybody else. Okay? You have to pit that revenue against the purchase of the company, which was high, and the operating costs, as well as the ongoing operating costs. Black Ops 6 is going to continue to get content and support and server infrastructure and patches, and all those studios are operating and being paid and open. And PlayStation sitting over there not spending a dime on any of that. So when that person made that claim, it was a very nuanced claim. It was like, yeah, this could be a situation where PlayStation makes more profit than Xbox because, yes, you're generating the most revenue, but operating costs, the marketing spend of Call of Duty is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. They have their commercials showing up in like sporting events and stuff. Like Microsoft's writing that check. They're the ones paying for all that marketing. That's lost in the conversation. Everybody's just out here bragging about Microsoft's revenue and the money they're going to make from Black Ops 6. And it's like, first of all, I don't know why that's what you're pivoting to. I mean, if you go back and watch my streams, I said that's what they were going to pivot to. I was like, they'll start bragging about revenue. Because, like, what else are you going to brag about? Black Ops 6 is on all platforms. So, like, what are you going to brag about? The money. Pocket watching one of the largest companies in the world and celebrating how much money they make is really weird energy. But hey, if that's what gets people to watch your content and you know, reply to your tweets, go for it, you know? Let's all celebrate how much Amazon makes too, yeah? Weird. I'm just so glad Amazon's making more money. Yeah, what the frick? Anyway. Golly, I'm trying to be nice. It's just so weird. But in that conversation, you have to ask, like, there is a possibility that they're not going to see the profit and the return that they wanted to. Yes, of course, the CEO is going to walk out and celebrate the records and celebrate the revenue and celebrate the sales, because he's got to tell the shareholders, it's all good, it's going well, this is working. But there's a breaking point, man. There's a breaking point. I still firmly believe that Satya did not want to put Call of Duty on Game Pass. I think Phil Spencer fought for that. I do. There was a reason that it was confirmed very late. There was a reason that there was rumors it was being considered to not come to Game Pass, because I think they were considering it. I think they were saying, listen, you're talking about millions of dollars here. We're not talking about a couple of sales. You're talking about potentially losing quite a bit of money by not putting the game, by putting the game on Game Pass. I think they were internally discussing it, and I think Phil Spencer fought for the soul of Xbox and said, you can't do that. Day one on Game Pass was just promised by Matt Booty earlier this year on that podcast. You can't walk that back with the biggest title. We're going to look like buffoons. Hilly says in the members-only Discord, let me read it over here so I don't have to. This will be an interesting problem for Xbox with Game Pass. Like, I was 50-50 to jump in for Black Ops 6, but with Stalker and Indie, it makes more sense to pick up for a single month once they have all landed. I was thinking of getting Game Pass Ultimate for the month of January, playing the Black Ops 6 campaign, Indiana Jones, Stalker, and then bouncing off in February. I could potentially do this once a year for everything that has landed, rather than waiting on the pass for what may or may not land on the roadmap. Right, and you have to understand the context of what's being said here, chat. Hilly is a Halo guy. We had an incentive on the channel where he had to delete Halo. It was hilarious. You got a Halo guy saying this. Yeah, I might just wait, and I'll just sign up for Game Pass. I'll play all your games in a month, and then I'll cancel. I mean, that right there is the frugal economic gamer, because eventually you're just going to be accustomed to doing that. Maybe you'll game a little bit on PlayStation, maybe you'll game a little bit on Steam, maybe you'll game a little bit on the Nintendo Switch, and you're like, hey, all right, it's December. It's time for me to grab Game Pass Ultimate and play all the games that Xbox dropped this year. Like next year, you could wait, sign up for Game Pass Ultimate in December, and you could play Avowed, Doom the Dark Ages, Fable, whatever else comes out. You play it all in 1 month and then cancel. $20 a year. Have we seen any PS4 games that benefit from PSSR on PS5 Pro yet? I don't think you're going to see that, no. Yo, what's good, Captain Steve? I don't think so. I don't think anybody's going to go back and utilize PSSR on a PS4 game. All PS4 backwards compatibility games are going to automatically get something called Game Boost. Their performance will automatically be boosted by the raw power of the GPU being higher. I don't think you're going to see anybody go back and waste time on that. Beat every monster in the Monster Hunter Wilds beta, very enjoyable. Where'd you play, Steve? Were you in the mix with the 500,000 people on Steam? I mean, dadgum, that game is crushing. Just a beta. Jeepers. If you're not going to buy those games, it's a win for Microsoft to at least get $20 from you. All right, so WGC, let's consider what you're saying. So you think someone like Hilly, who's been with Xbox for a while, he was even running an Xbox, YouTube channel for a little while there, and he's a Halo guy. You think Hilly, if we create an alternate universe where Game Pass doesn't exist, you think that he just wouldn't buy Indiana Jones? He just wouldn't buy the new Doom or Stalker? He's just like, no, I wouldn't play those games? I feel like he would. Now, there might be one in the mix that he'd be a little iffy on and he might skip. Like, he might skip Indy. But from what I know of Hilly and his game experiences, he would probably buy Black Ops 6. He would probably buy Doom. He would probably buy Stalker. Like, they're shooters. And they kind of harken back to a classic era that he's from, he can speak for himself. But again, I gotta say, a lot of these Xbox guys would not be like, well, no, I wasn't going to buy a single game. Well, then what in the world are you doing? Why would you even have the console if you're not going to buy any of those games? That's what's crazy about it, WGC. If you buy 2 of those games a year at full price, that's $140. If you're using Game Pass and you use Hilly's method, you're giving them $20 a year. So this is all the stuff that they're going to be internally analyzing. I don't think Call of Duty Black Ops 6 crushing it on Game Pass is just an automatic dunker where they're going to say, yep, we're just going to keep doing this for the next 10 years. They may crunch the numbers in 6 months and say, yep, this is exactly what we were worried about. Look how much money we lost. Look how much money we could have made. And then your shareholders are going to say, you got to make changes. They're going to expect Satya to make changes. If he comes back and reports measurable losses because of putting the biggest game of the year on Game Pass, I don't think they'll stay planted on that. I really don't. Think about what they've already done. Just track with me here. Pony Doomsdaying. No. Just track with me here. Where is Day and Date right now? Where is it? Is it on Game Pass? No. Matt Booty's promise is already got an asterisk next to it. It already has an asterisk next to it. His promise is already half empty. It is. It's already half lie. Yeah, we're going to bring our big first-party games. We're going to continue to bring them to Game Pass. No, you're not. You're only putting it on Ultimate and PC Game Pass. There's a whole bunch of people that won't get games Day and Date anymore. They won't. You're no longer putting your big first-party games on Game Pass. You're putting your big first-party games on Game Pass Ultimate and PC Game Pass. They're already in a prime position to dissolve that as a promise. They're already in position to do it. In a year or two, it just goes away. It just disappears. It's like, yeah, we're no longer doing that. I mean, they've already done it to a certain extent. They've already moved Day and Date and made it not on Game Pass. It's already happened. To me, it's like they've already kind of done it. They've already made Matt Booty in the span of, when was that podcast? April? In the span of 6 months, his promise is hollow. It's like, yeah, we're going to continue to put our big titles on Game Pass Day and Date. And it's like, not really. Go back and watch it now. It's like, no, you're not. You're putting it on Ultimate. And you raise the price of Ultimate. And PC. Which, none of that bodes well for the console loyalists. It's like, oh, I got to pay more than the guys on PC? I'm here to tell you, they're going to crunch these numbers internally, and I do not think it's as simple as, oh yeah, big win for Xbox, big win for Game Pass. They're going to keep doing Day and Date. They're going to keep doing it, and it's like, maybe. Day and Date was not always Ultimate. They promise it on everything, and they lied to us gamers. They always say just enough so that you can't accuse them of lying. Remember when they did the podcast? And I said, it's not about what Phil Spencer says, it's about what he doesn't say. Yeah. And people were like doing wellness checks on me. Well, how's Reforge Gaming? He said not Starfield and Indiana Jones. We might need to do wellness checks on you guys when they announce Indiana Jones. It's coming! Like I said, it's not about what the man says, it's about what he doesn't say. November of last year, we hear a CFO saying first-party property is going to go to PlayStation and Nintendo. He also says they're no longer considered competitors. And what's everybody focus on? Well, Phil Spencer told Windows Central that they have no plans to bring Game Pass to PlayStation or Nintendo. You absolutely deserve to get tricked when you're that gullible. You deserve it. It's like he didn't even answer the question. He's like, are you guys going to start putting your games on PlayStation and Nintendo? We have no plans to put Game Pass on PlayStation and Nintendo. I want you to imagine sitting across the table from him and asking him, hey, are you guys going to put your first-party games on PlayStation and Nintendo? And Phil goes, we have no plans to put Game Pass on PlayStation and Nintendo. You would immediately know. You'd be like, yeah, you sly dog. You're going to do it, aren't you? You won't answer my question. You said Game Pass. You won't speak to the first-party games. Then he walks out. He's like, just 4 games. Are those 4 games Starfield and Indiana Jones? A total setup question, by the way. What a joke. A total setup question. Hey, make sure and ask me if they're Indiana Jones or Starfield so I can say no. I think Luna misspoke and meant Starfield. Oh, what did I misspeak on? I do that a lot. I switch games around when I'm talking fast. So that's exactly what's happening right now. It's like, yes, Matt Booty said just enough so that you can't accuse him of lying. He could say, well, we did put Black Ops 6 day and date on Game Pass. Game Pass Ultimate and Game Pass PC and everybody who is still on Game Pass console. So it's like they say just enough that you can't accuse them of lying. Yeah, Phil said, we're a business. Hilly says, I'm not anti-buying games or anti-Game Pass, but I do spend most of my time playing Halo, Valheim, and DayZ, which I bought. With DayZ, I pay for a private server for me and my 2 mates. I don't mind spending money on things that I like in gaming, but I look at many games knowing it's unlikely that I will live in that game and just want to do the story and the campaign to try it out. The way Game Pass is set up, I can use it as a quick fix. It's a great value for me. $20, I can try 5 or 6 campaigns in a month and then back to Halo DayZ. I'm sorry. It will work nice for me. Just don't think it serves Xbox or the Game Pass devs, or the game devs. Plus, if I do find another unicorn game, I love Big Shocker, I buy it. Yeah. No, you're not wrong either, Hilly. It isn't good for the devs. It's not good for the devs. Like, I don't think it's an accident they got rid of, like, the $1 trial. I don't think it's an accident they made it to where you can't stack Game Pass for forever for, like, $1 for every month. Do you want to know why they closed those loopholes? Because they saw people doing it. This means they're monitoring the behavior of people and how they interact with Game Pass. This means... okay. This means that they're monitoring the behavior of people and how they interact with Game Pass. So it stands to reason that they're going to be monitoring all of those people who signed up for Game Pass to play Call of Duty. They're going to be monitoring all of them. How many hours was that? How many? So 8. And it went up by like 2. Yeah, it's the same. Sorry, I was looking at something. I think a 3-month subscription is just a matter of time. Oh, you think they won't let people sign up for 1 month? They'll make them sign up for 3? Chat, do you think that's a possibility that they would be like, we can't let people do a month anymore? Can't let people do a month. You got to make them do 3. I could see them making it a 3-month minimum on Ultimate within 2 years. Oh, so yeah, Hilly agrees with you, D-Master. Yeah, Hilly agrees with you. He thinks, no, yeah, they could totally do that. Because if they start monitoring it's just like when you remove the $1 and the stacking and the trials, they remove all that stuff because people were abusing it. And if they feel like people are signing up for a month, playing all their biggest titles, and then canceling, they'll be like, yeah, we can't let people do that anymore. So everything I've said in the last 45 minutes will likely get clipped, false framed, and misinterpreted as like a pony who won't give Xbox a win. That's not what I'm doing. I have 100% given them the credit for what I said was going to happen. I quite literally predicted that Black Ops 6 would be one of the biggest and most successful Call of Duties. I said it would take the record from Starfield of the most Game Pass subscribers in a day. I said all those things. That has happened. That's great for them. That does not mean, yep, everything's fine, everything's good, they're just going to keep doing what they're doing. Nope. The proof is always in the pudding. They are going to analyze what this does for them. They're going to analyze what this does for their bottom line long term. And it doesn't automatically mean, yeah, they're just going to continue going the same way. And we already have evidence that I'm right. Because before Black Ops 6 came out, they moved day and date to Ultimate, and they raised the price of Ultimate. Do you want to know why? Because I'm right. They are breaking down the numbers. They are breaking down the bottom line, the ROI, and the profit, and they are trying to make sure this goes their way. And if it doesn't, they'll make more adjustments in the future. You put money on that. You can put money on that. They are not just going to keep letting something like this happen if it's not good for their bottom line. They've already tried to cushion the blow already. If this was automatically a win and just getting people to sign up to Game Pass was all that they needed, they wouldn't have made those changes. They wouldn't have moved day and date to Ultimate. They wouldn't have raised the price of Ultimate. They did all of those things to soften the blow of what they inevitably knew would be at some level a revenue loss for them. To argue otherwise is ignorant. It's like that is why they did it. So enjoy it while it lasts, because I really truly think the brand, the identity, and the value offer is just going to continue to change. I do. I think it continues to change. That's not doomsday. That's not hate. We have watched that brand completely and utterly evolve in about 11 months' time. From January to now, it has been a speed run evolution. They don't even, I mean, honestly, if you really think about it, in the wake of the ABK deal closing, and then now, it's like, they don't even look like the same, they doesn't even look like the same gaming platform anymore. They don't. It just, that fast. In 1 year, it's like, wow. Day and date moved. Ultimate's more expensive. You're putting your games on PlayStation. You got first party property that's going to be PS5 Pro enhanced. It's like that was 11 months. Earlier this year, you would have been called a delusional port begging pony if you said Xbox is going to bring their games to PlayStation. You would have been called a crazy person. And now, that's just the news. It's just the news. It's like, oh yeah, that's just what's happening. That's just what is happening. It's not shocking. It's not surprising anymore. They did say it was an accelerant to their strategy. That is a great callback. That's a great callback, bro. That really is. ABK is not our strategy. It's an accelerant to our strategy. It's just, right? ABK is not our strategy. It's an accelerant to our strategy. And then they got ABK, and all of a sudden, it's like the pedal went down. It was like, it's like, wow, this is happening real quick, isn't it? John always puts a thumbs up in chat. Guys, let's shoot for 400 likes. There's so many of you here. Thank you so much. We're going to keep on hanging out and keep on streaming because it's Friday. You have secured the weekly goal. I am going to do a Fright Night tonight with A Quiet Place, and you can jump scare me with super chats. And there's a $1 to $4, $5, $10, $15, and $20. Like, they all make different sounds. It obviously gets crazier on the bigger ones. So make sure you're here tonight for that. And you can continue to support right now. If you've never done a membership before on YouTube, click join. If you currently have a membership, we have a pretty big goal that I would love for you guys to help out with. We slowed down. We were hitting these goals pretty regularly. We want to see 600 people at Member Plus and above. And we currently have 555. So you can upgrade your membership for $1. It's a $6 membership, but it gets you into the green room and gameplay and extra content. So you can use the upgrade command. And when enough of you do it, I actually bless the community with 20 members. Do we get new emotes? Yeah, I'll give you guys some new emotes for tonight as well. We'll start celebrating with new emotes every week you guys hit the goal. We'll just swap some out. The third-party strategy was already in place. We just didn't know. Yeah, that's always been interesting to me. Like, I wonder if any of the diehard Xbox guys would do, like, a retrospective on when this plan clearly was put in place and they were clearly telling the public something else. Like, you had Frosted Glass at Rare and people working on Sea of Thieves coming to PlayStation, and like they didn't want anybody to know. That was well in place in the beginning of 2023, and it's like, okay, if that started happening early 2023, that means the plan was discussed, put together, and greenlit in 2022. So it would be really interesting to go back. Emotes are coming. I knew it. That would be really interesting to go back and see, like, what they were telling the public while in the background they were completely changing the strategy and the plan, you know, going forward. Be really interesting. They had this plan years ago. Right. Headline, large corporation makes changes to business strategy to make revenue growth, and it worked. Well, I think the difference here is, WGC, that all along the way, this wasn't just like some corporation making changes, talking to their shareholders and talking to their investors and, you know, it paying off. All along the way, they were also talking to the public. No new emotes. You know, and I think there's a part of that discussion that is unique to gaming. Like, I don't know if a lot of these other situations, a lot of these other companies, a lot of these other changes, it's not like they have to come out and sort of like speak to the consumer in a way to get their loyalty and their excitement. They were talking about the Zen, just as an example. Phil Spencer was sitting down in the wake of the ZeniMax acquisition and doing interviews and talking about what this meant for the Xbox user. I remember having these conversations, and we were looking at his statements, and it was clear. It was like, no, yeah, he's going to make all these games exclusive. He's referring to, there was an interview, I think, where he like referred to Elder Scrolls as an exclusive, like it was going to be an Xbox exclusive. So the conversation to the public and the interviews and the outlets and showing up to like gaming events, it was, hey, you know, we did this to bring more games to you guys. And when they set their sights on ABK, everything changed. And I think they just continued to go with the same verbiage and the same public voice. And that's why a lot of people felt like, wait a minute, that's not, you guys were not saying, you were saying the opposite. That's an awesome shirt. Do they have one for Starscream? I've gotten some classic Transformers shirts. This is from 80s Tees. My code still works over there, by the way. 80s Tees has a Transformers collection, and if you search for Transformers and click on like Transformers hoodies and shirts, they've got some classics over there that I actually have. I've got like this classic old school Optimus Prime. They've got some amazing hoodies. Holy mackerel. They've got some amazing all over print shirts now too. They didn't have these back. Yep, they've got this version Starscream. I just found it. Right here. They literally have this version with... Stop. No, don't do this. I don't like this. No. Yeah, Starscream. Right there. There you go. Make sure if you go over there and buy a shirt from 80s Tees, use code LONO. It still works. It'll give you a nice chunk of change off of there. It'll take 30% off. They've got this. Look, oh, that's a sweater. Never mind. I thought that was a shirt. Yeah, they've got all over print shirts. They're not cheap, but dang, they're awesome. I love all over print shirts. I think they look so sick. I tried using your code like a week ago and it didn't work. What? Discount code. You can only use one discount per order. Applying a discount code may override an automatic discount. My code right now is working. I'll delete it and I'll re-add it. You got to do it all caps. Yeah, I just did it and it added it. It added the discount. Is it just Lono? Yeah, just LONO, all caps. Yep, and it should work. It's doing it for me right now. It's taking $36 off of I'm ordering 2 shirts. I got an $80 shirt and a $39 shirt in the checkout. I mean, $36 off makes like the $39 shirt practically free. That's a good discount. Yeah, you guys should start using my code over there. I could reach back out to him and say, hey, you probably didn't do caps. Oh, let me see if that makes it not work. Let me go lowercase. No, lowercase worked too. I just did it lowercase and it worked just fine. You might have picked something that already had like some kind of a discount and it won't let you do that. Like if he had like a clearance section or a sales section or something, or sometimes right when you go to the site, he's pretty aggressive with his site. Like it's like, hey, you can get a discount, give me your email, or da-da-da-da. And if you do that and it applies the discount to your cart, you won't be able to add my code. It'll prevent you from doing it. Okay, so Hilly says, I have a digital library on Steam and on Xbox. So much of Game Pass is not loaded in value to me. My kids love Game Pass, but they haven't noticed that I stopped it. They live in Fortnite, and you don't even need multiplayer as it's free to play. Xbox needs to be careful as they will get out of Fortnite for like 2 to 5 years. Game Pass is great, but I think the model has so much value, it's dangerous. I'm not hating on it. I just think that they made odd choices. Like, I play Halo on PC now because why drop money on multiplayer when it's free on PC? Pricing things different across platforms will cause them issues. Having games everywhere is a great mission, but if everyone feels hard done by one way or the other, it could hurt them long term. Am I looking? PlayStation 5 Pro unboxings are showing up. They're surfacing online. Oh yeah, there's a video of somebody who's got it out. He unboxes it. He might get in trouble for that. There's a street date on this. November the 4th is when the unboxing videos should show up. And this guy's doing it in a retail store. It comes in a cardboard box with another cardboard box inside. Inside that box is more cardboard, the Pro itself, the controller, and some wires. It's nothing particularly special. Yeah, Tommy Hendy said that the Pro unboxings would hit on the 4th. And so, but this guy is like a retailer. He's doing it early. So. All right, I tell you what. Last call for likes, super chats, and gifted members or memberships. Last call. I'm going to set up Writer's Room, and we are going to get out of here. Writer's Room is a behind-the-scenes, members-only segment, and usually on Fridays, once we're done in the Writer's Room, we go to the Green Room, and that's pretty much turned into the opportunity for me to play demos and games and just hang out with you guys. So we may end up back in Dragon Age Veilguard today. We may try some of those demos I told you guys about in the show open. Lawsuit inbound. I mean, They sent the stuff to the retailer, so it's hard to know if they could even sue him. Like, unless there's like an agreement with the retailer that won't happen. He could get the retailer in big trouble. You playing Redacted? I already played Redacted. I didn't like it. There's gameplay on the members only playlist right now. You can go watch me play it and you'll see why I didn't like it. The too long didn't read is it can't decide if it wants to be a frenetic twin stick shooter or like a melee based Hades game. Like, it just doesn't feel good. I didn't like it. Even one of the people that had put a lot of time into it, I think it was Hyde. Hyde was like, you got to get the guns upgraded and you got to get good upgrades on the guns to have a good run. And he's not wrong. I had the shotgun and I got a rapid fire upgrader mod and I was melting bosses. But then the minute I didn't have that, I felt weak again. It just doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good as a game. It doesn't. I've played a lot of games like that. I played Hades 1. I played Hades 2. Curse of the Dead Gods. I played twin stick shooters. I've played all kind of little rogue adventure, top downs like that. And I thought Redacted was just not enjoyable for a handful of reasons. Vampire Hunters is addictive. Thanks for the gameplay. Thank you guys for supporting that. The Vampire Hunters stream is doing really, really well. It really is. It's doing very well. We're getting consistent, great search results on that. And that's awesome because that was a code that was sent to me. So to be one of the top search results for that is just awesome. Anybody looking for Vampire Hunters gameplay, incognito, let's see, 2, 4, 5, 6, 8. We were, for a while there, we were in the top results incognito and we've slipped. That's a bummer. But yeah, we were crushing it. YouTube is being super weird with like when I'm clicking on channels and like it's saying page not found, and then I go back and click on the channel again and like it fixes. Really interesting. There's a lot of gameplay of Vampire Hunters out there. You guys can check it out though. That stream where I play Vampire Hunters, it's like Vampire Survivors, but it's a first-person shooter, and we beat the first area. I hadn't done that yet. That was really cool. Like, I got to experience that with you guys. Karate Survivor's so dope. Isn't it though, dude? Karate Survivor's so good. Green's my favorite color. That's why I wish the teal plates were able to be on the launch models and not just on the slim models. I thought about doing it at one of mine since mine is pre-ordered. Though my store and one is technically mine, but I don't want to risk getting fired. Yeah, I wouldn't do it because I think the retailers likely have standing deals to be like, hey, you can't get them out of the box because there's an embargo on the unboxings. Like, there are guys right now that have them and they're not allowed to unbox them. They can just show you the box. So, yeah. All right, I'm going to spam a link in chat. If you got a membership today, guys, make sure you come back tonight or just keep hanging out. Keep coming with us to the writer's room. And then tonight's going to be the Fright Night. So wherever you are in the world, 8 hours from now is when we're going to be doing the Friday night stream and hanging out and having drinks and having laughs and playing that game. So thank you guys so much for making the goal happen. Once again this week, we will celebrate tonight. And we're going to keep on hanging out with memberships right now. If you did not get a membership, if you don't have a membership, consider clicking join. And make sure you pick Member Plus if you are going to pick a membership all by yourself. Thanks so much for being a member to this channel. If you're seeing this is the Writer's Room. It's a behind-the-scenes look at how we kind of plan the shows and the videos and the topics. And we appreciate you supporting the channel very, very much. You're either paying for your own membership or you were gifted one, and that means you watch the channel enough to get a gifted membership. If you're watching this right now and you have been paying for your own membership or you got a gifted, we really want to see more people at Member Plus and above. It's $6 a month, and we're trying to hit a goal of 600 people at Member Plus and above, because currently right now only about 555 people are paying for their own membership. So consider doing that. It really helps us if you're watching this VOD later. I'm going to end the previous broadcast and bring folks over with redirect, and then I'm going to change that thumbnail because we are no longer live.